animals and for every human being in this world. The United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the year 1948. That is why we celebrate this day. And this year, it is very special because this is the Golden Jubilee year of the enactment of these two international covenants, the ICCPR and the ICSR in the year 1966. So this is the 50th year of the enactment of ICCPR and ICSR. So this day is far more important for us. We are celebrating the Golden Jubilee of these two important covenants. And today it is a very special day for us because we are having wonderful guests here, wonderful speakers here to talk to all of you about the Human Rights Day. So may I now request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Shyamlal Singla, to welcome the guests for the day.
And in that I must welcome first of all Mr. Vinder Sharma, Member of Parliament from UK. He is a very big professional and interestingly a politician also concerned with your health in that strict. And since we have him here, we are trying to utilize his experience and his place there so that some of our doctors can get benefited somehow or the other. Mr. James Duffy, welcome sir. He is attorney at New York, USA. Mr. Kaviraj, he is the General Secretary, Indian National Bar Association. And Mr. Nachiket Joshi, who is Chairman, UK chapter of INBA. So we have such dignitaries who can really help our university to grow up. I welcome you all sir for this, and we would like to listen from you about the function that we are having today. Thank you very much.
Mr. Virendra Kumar Sharma, Member of the Parliament from United Kingdom. Can I request our Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor to present a small memento as a token of our love and affection to the attorney from USA, Mr. James Duffy. Can I request our Registrar Professor Prem Singh to felicitate Mr. Kaviraj, the General Secretary of the Indian National Bar Association. And I now request Professor Rajiv Khanna to felicitate Mr. Nachiket Joshi, who is the Chairman for the UK chapter of the Indian National Bar Association. I would like to request one of our students, Mr. Rupal Jain, to come over here and read out a pledge for the day. And I would request all of you to please stand up and repeat the pledge that what Rupal will be administering for all of us.
Let us all pledge and endeavor to eradicate hunger, to protect our environment, to eradicate forced labor, to ensure better working conditions for casual workers, to protect the right to privacy, and ending mass surveillance of digital communications, to ensure acquisition of land does not undermine and local communities, to combat sexual violence in the workplace.
And that is something that exists by reason of the mere fact of your existence. It's not given to you by any government. It's not given to you by any political structure. It's something that comes with the mere status of existence. And we approached this in the United States several hundred years ago in a document called the Declaration of Independence, where there the drafters of that document talked about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And these were rights that were given by God. They were not given by any government. And they talked about creating a government that derived its rights from the consent of the governed, not because the government was strong or powerful or was because the governed consented to government. And that raises a very, very interesting issue when we're talking about human rights. Because if all of our rights expand everywhere because of who we are and what we are, what happens when those rights intersect with someone else's rights? How do we deal with that? And I think the key question in that area, or the answer to that question, is respect. We have to understand that everyone has dignity. Not just me, not just you, all of us have dignity. And when my expression of my rights starts to interfere with your expression of your rights, how do we adjust that? How do we reconcile these two conflicting things? These are absolute rights that we have, and yet they're not absolute when they deprive you of your similar rights. And I would suggest to you that the only appropriate way of resolving that conflict, that question, is by recognizing the dignity that each of us has and giving due deference to the importance of not only your right, because you are obviously entitled to insist on your right, but the right of the other party to insist on their right. And I think that's something that our society these days, particularly in the United States, has a lot of trouble dealing with. I don't want this to become too political, but you probably are aware that there are all sorts of stalemates in U.S. society, which I think you could probably find analogs for in other societies, where people are unwilling to compromise on their rights. They will tell you, my rights are absolute. And then I would ask them the question that I just raised, is that really true? Are your rights absolute when you insist on them, you deny someone else their right? And I think that gets us to a very, very interesting point. And since I've been asked to be brief, I think I will end after this and just leave the question somewhat unanswered. And that is that G.K. Chesterton, who wrote at the end of the 1800s, the early 1900s, who often was known for his paradoxes, had a very, very interesting paradox. He said, man is never so free except when he is governed by just laws. And the paradox, freedom and governed, that's the issue. And his solution was, you cannot be free unless you are governed by just laws. And I think that's a very, very interesting analogy that we need to apply in the human rights area. That you cannot properly have your human rights unless you are willing to respect someone else's human rights. And if there's anything that you take away from this day, I think that's the thing that I would recommend you consider taking away. And with that, I will close. I hope that was brief enough. and thank you so much for listening.
Virendra Sharma, Member of the Parliament from United Kingdom. Before I invite him to speak, I would like to briefly introduce him about his achievements and contributions to humanity. Mr. Virendra Sharma was first elected as Member of the Parliament in the Ealing South Hall by election on 19 July 2007. Since 2007, he has been elected twice more, both with significantly increased majorities. Most recently in 2015, he was re-elected with a majority of nearly 19,000 votes. Virendra Sharma was born in India and speaks fluently Punjabi, Hindi and Urdu. Earlier, he served as a councillor in Ealing for 25 years, including a term as mayor. He came to Hanwell from India in 1968 and started out as a bus conductor on the 207 route before studying at the London School of Economics on a trade union scholarship and eventually working as a day services manager for people with learning disabilities in Hillingdon. When first elected, Virendra served as a member of the International Development Select Committee, which after a 5-year hiatus he returned to in 2015. He was a member of the Health Select Committee from 2010 to 2015 and has been a member of the Joint Committee on Human Rights since his election. Mr. Virendra currently chairs the Indo-British All-Party Parliamentary Group and leads the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Gurkha Welfare and is co-chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Nepal, the Tuberculosis Group, the Hepatitis Group, and is vice chair of the APPG for British Hindus. He has previously chaired the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Tamils and is still actively involved as the vice chair. May we invite you, sir, and we'll be very fortunate to listen to you on this topic. Thank you.
Students. I'm sure there's others. It's a great honor and a privilege to come to this institution, and especially on the day when we are talking about the Human Rights Day, which is very close to my heart as well, because I serve on those committees which are directly or indirectly linked with human rights. Mr. Khanna asked me to be brief. I don't know whose standard he is asking, whether his standard is to be brief or my standard. I'm a politician. I can carry on speaking, whether it makes sense or not. That's a political politician's privilege. But I'm sure that Mr. Khanna will indicate to me when I think that I have said enough. We watched the film. This is an issue which is, to some, is very confusing issue. They don't know how to define and they don't understand what human rights stand for. James has given definition on the legal terms. I'm talking about day-to-day, ordinary people, their level of understanding of the subject. But I put it simply to you. I don't know how many of you have read or follow the Sikh faith. If you follow, I'm sure that you will know more. All our saints in the past, from the different faith groups, speaks about human rights or the rights of individuals. But the Sikh gurus, particularly Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the 5th Guru and the 9th Guru, and ultimately the 10th Guru, has brought the rights of individuals into the forefront. Whether you say the human rights and rights in the different shapes. And they sacrifice their lives for the sake of humanity. I can speak on that for as long as you wish me to speak. But I leave that to you to think seriously what they preached, because I take the Sikh faith immediately because it's the newest, recent faith, and the teachings comes from the recent gurus. What they fought for, what they preached, what they sacrificed for. If you have not read it, go and do your research. Nowadays, I was told by my grandson that Google is the one of the best, that you don't have to read the 300-page books. You can go into the one page in Google and you will find that. So that is it, what human rights are. And that's what we are talking about today. I was very impressed when, I forgot the name of the young girl who came here.
Rupal.
When Rupo read that pledge, That is the pledge given by all the 117 world leaders only about 6 weeks ago in New York. You are the law students or the students in the human field. In New York, they signed a pledge to eliminate all those evils in the society and ills in the society by 2030. When I was speaking in New York, when the President of USA, Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister of Britain, they were all together. My line is, because there is an ambitious program, whether we can achieve it or not, it's a wait and see. By 2030, it's very ambitious way of putting it. Whether we can achieve it or not is your responsibility. I don't think it will be my responsibility by 2030, whether I'm around or not. There is a pledge by the international governments, all the NGOs and the institutions who campaign in the fields of elimination of poverty, education for all, protection of girls, making sure there is good health provisions for everybody, making sure that everybody has the right to employment. All these pledges, what we call sustainable development goals by 2030. After the Millennium Goals, it has now come to the sustainable development. So, it's a duty of the generation you are growing, understanding the importance of those rights of individuals. Every right of individual is the right of human rights. Every right. As James said, that where you have a right, you also have a responsibility to make sure that you also respect the other people's point of view and their rights. So it's a working together. And I'm quite sure that if the young generation of today give a commitment to fight for the rights of individuals in all walks of life, slavery, child labor, abuse, education for all the girls in the world by 2030. That's the commitment. Obama, Cameron, Mr. Modi, they have signed that pledge. These are the three major powers of the world, along with other 114 leaders. That if we all come together to make sure that there is a healthy provisions, you challenge those discriminations taking place in the society. When you challenge a child labor taking place in your surrounding areas, then I'm sure that will be the step forward for the human rights. We can talk about the legal side of it. We can say what is the law coming through, what is the impact of that law on the human rights. But what we are talking about is not the legal side of it, it's the social side of the society. It's a social side of the system which we want to do. All the institutions, wherever they are working, they fight for it. We recently have, as part of that conference is still taking place in Paris on the environment, climate change. That also comes part of the human rights, whether we are working on that or not. So I have touched a few areas, and I know that it's not the time because I know that there are a lot of you who are looking forward to go for lunch. I'm quite happy to see one or two of you who wanted to ask any questions later on. But I, once again, where I thank the Vice Chancellor, all involved to inviting me and my colleagues here today to share this thought, brief thought. But certainly, at the same time, I hope that you as a young generation will start talking amongst yourself how to take that pledge forward so that future generations don't have to talk what we are talking today, that we are still facing abuse on the buses, abuse in the schools, abuse in on the streets, abuse in all shapes and forms. I'm not going to say there's only one abuse. There's all the abuse of child labor and others, the women's rights. And I hope that you will take that right forward so that we can have a very decent and a human society. Thank you very much.